Media online by Actual. Yeah, we'll publish for that. Yep.
Say?
It's a big step happening.
No, I know there's big stuff happening out there, but when he says this, the rabbi has.
So when you see that?
He doesn't say anything about it.
He did. He quoted it. Because he's done this multiple times.
This is the rabbi.
Okay. I guess he just. I guess
What?
He doesn't even.
Give it up. Now you well, you leave.
Now you know something. Yeah.
And I looked up, and I couldn't. No, I was there when she said it was on. Back in there. And then I saw it, so I when it was really little.
It's just too much.
I was like, what else could happen?
What should I do?
So what pages are you?
I have all the way to the end. I have so it shouldn't be up.
Good, okay. Okay. Thank Rabbi Nachmani and the Mishpacha, Chaburah Yosef HaTzadik, לעילוי נשמת Rabbi's father, Avinoam, Ben Chaim, the Gdlya, and also for the thank you Parnes HaShana, לעילוי נשמת Gdlya, Ben Rabbi Shimon, Gdlya, Simcha Nachas and Baruch. On Shin Pei Beis in this mimer from the Sefer Shar Hanun from the author of Bilvavi Mishkan Evne, where Rav Schwartz is explaining the chiddush of the Milchama that we're in. There's a Milchama that's on the physical battlefield, and the Milchama on the physical battlefield is a reflection of the Milchama that's taking place in Pnimius before Mashiach comes. And we were talking about the different bechinas of this last Milchama, preparing us for the Shar Hanun in Kedusha, Mashiach Sekreinu, and our encounter with Ein Sof. So, in the world of Tumah, we're now facing this new face of the enemy. It's very deeply connected, as we spoke about 2 weeks ago, to the Yontif of Purim, to the Milchama of Purim, Amalek. So on the bottom of middle of page Shin Pei Beis, Eimek HaMilchama B'dor Didan. And whatever challenges we're having, the kids, the children, and the grandchildren, it's Mayasa Ben V'leachta. This is the Milchama now. So the last thing we were talking about last week was the unbelievable koach of himashchut. That's Ein Sof. Himashchut means this pull, this draw, this attraction, this addictive, magnetic excitement that surrounds the technology these days, and particularly, Rav Schwartz wrote this in response to his galus of artificial intelligence, which since we started, so different chevra have been explaining to me more what this is about, and the more I hear, the clearer this becomes and the scarier it becomes. So how do you fight against this? That's the question. That's the end of this mimer, the most important part of the mimer. once we've identified what this is, and the koach of Ein Sof, there's a tam, a me'ein, something that's infinite, that has been revealed before Mashiach comes. So in that world of Shar HaNun, and the Nun of Tumah, so what's the tikkun? What's our fight against it? We spoke many times over the years, more Tisha B'Av time, that Rabbi Nachman Susilano spoke about kinos as having the same letters as tikkun, right? Kinos, the kinos that we say, Tisha B'Av has the same letters as the word tikkun. The difference is that the nun in kinos is bent, and the tikkun, the end nun, the final nun is long. So Mitchell will come and we'll talk about the difference between the bent nun, the nun zekufa, and the nun kfufa. Zekufa and kfufa, the bent kfufa and the zekufa and the straight nun. And Mashiach is called Mashiach is nun. L'fnei shemesh yinon shemo. Whoever learned Lukutim around the first Torah, you know that the meaning of Mashiach is very deeply connected to the letter nun. Yid l'fnei yinun. One of the names of Mashiach is Yud Nun Vav, a bent nun, and then an end nun. L'fnei yinun shemesh, l'fnei shemesh yinon shemot yinun. One of the names of Mashiach is Yinun, and there's the Shar HaNun. And the meaning of Mashiach is the tikkun of the kinas of Golas. So the kinas that are now being said in Jewish homes are probably are more over the churban that's taking place in the lives of the children and the grandchildren and marriages and adults through this snake, through the nachash, which is the serpent of the word kinos, and the way to fight that is with the nun of kedusha. It's the only way you could fight that is with the nun of kedusha. So the only choice we have now, what we need to offer our children and our grandchildren, and to be mischazik ourselves, is with the koach hayimashkus achar barei, to enter into the magnetic field of dveikus b'Hashem. If you're standing on the side and you're in a person's relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu these days is not in a way of dveikus and himashchus, so then it's almost impossible for them not to get sucked into that magnetic field of the Shar Nun of Tumah. Rak karch himashchus achar baris baruch shmo b'himashchus she'il l'malam mitam v'daz. Ad lo yoda. The only way that a person can overcome the nun of Tumah is with the nun of Kedusha. And the nun of Kedusha means where a person's avodah HaKadosh Baruch Hu is addictive, is passionate, is addictive, and it's in such a way that it's l'malam mitam v'das. It's l'malam mitam v'das. Koach habitl, mesirus nefesh. L'malam mitam v'das means that it's not something which can be explained rationally. He reaches a place within himself that transcends the koach of das, which is pur, which is ad lo yoda. Because b'derech haseichel, that's why parents, everybody's trying to find all kinds of sichlistic ways to fight against the technology and with their kids and to talk to them and things to do. That's not a matter of seichel. Everybody knows that you can't win with this. You can't win with seichel. You can't win. Seichel is not as strong as this. This comes from a place that's higher than Bina, for sure higher than Bina. Chachma, it's the need of Chachma. Chachma, Keser, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about Bina and Das. We're talking about something higher. And all of the arguments that you could have with the kids, and all of the seichel that you and I have to know how so much of this is dangerous and is harmful is not working. We see that it's not working. The seichel doesn't work when it comes to this because this is higher than seichel. This is from the world of Amalek. This is the world of Haman. It's higher than seichel. It's not an Indian of seichel. It transcends seichel. And the only way to fight against something that's higher than seichel is with a koch that's higher than seichel, which is a koch habitl, and mesirus nefesh, and ad lo yoda. To be drunk with a Kodesh Baruch. That's the only way that it works. That's the only thing that can work. All the different shitas by religious people, by non-religious people, Jews and non-Jews, but trying to figure out shittas and mahalchim of how to contend with what's happening in that world of technology, especially with this artificial intelligence. They're just beginning to see where this is going. Shittos psychologios, kinds of psychological shittas, the eitzes maisias and practical eitzes. Kamuvan, Rav Schwartz writes, certainly it certainly can. All of those things are whatever we could find, whatever we could use. All of those things are important, and it could somehow, on some level, it could make the draw. It could a little bit less. It can make things a little bit, perhaps, more manageable from time to time. And anything that a person can do to make it less. The reward of all those people who are trying to help with these issues, the reward is something which, of course, is being saved for them in Olam Haba. It's a great reward for anybody who's trying to help with these matters. Lo yochel liftar es abaya klal uklal. 3 times he gave it klal. But it's not a solution. The filters and all the other shittas that they're working on to try to help with this cannot solve the problem at all. Hadover hayachid she'omed be'ofen ha'sholem mul osa kli hu hagilui b'mamake hanefesh sheba me'or hayichida shebenefesh shemakira es amitas or ein sof. So here we're coming together. The Shiur on Tuesday night of the Shar Hagan, we've been talking about the avodah Mesirus Nefesh, and that part of ourselves that's called Yechida Shebenefesh. It's higher than, it's something which even transcends the guf. It's higher than Nefesh Ruach and even the Shama, and even the Koch of Chaya is the Koch of Yechida Shebenefesh, which is the Nakud of Mesirus Nefesh, which is why we're seeing this now. We're seeing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing us in Eretz Yisrael, and Jews all around the world are for the first time thinking on a level that's higher than what is logical and rational. And they're facing the enemy again, where you see the snake, where you're seeing Amalek, that the hatred for Jews is something which is not seichel. It's not seichel. And therefore, Davka, in the places where there's supposed to be depositories for sichlias, where people always thought are places where the brightest and most intelligent are being educated. The Davka from those, it's not even everybody was always saying these are all the Son Yisrael, they're neo-Nazis, they're all white trash, and from the right, these are Meshagoyim, these they're all the people that were marching at the White House in January. I don't remember the date was, but back in January a few years ago, January 16th. So that 6th. So that 16th was okay already, but by the 6th it was bad. So January 6th was a crazy thing. But those are the anti-Semites. The skinheads are the anti-Semites. The idiots, the uneducated. They said the same thing in Poland and in Germany. It's the idiots and the uneducated. And then all of a sudden, mitgala, that it became very, very clear that it's not a din in Davka. Those are also anti-Semites, but it's not a din in the peasants. It's not a din in the Cossacks. It's a din in Harvard, Columbia, and the rest of the Chaburah. It's a din in the highest echelons of left-wing American democratic English. England is crazy, altogether crazy. There's a friend of mine that's been living there for many years, and he sent me before Shabbos. He was sending me some things that are going on. It's absolutely crazy. The Chaburah there in England are like looking to get out. They want to leave. People are all over the place. They want to get out. It's totally crazy. And it's coming from the parliament. It's coming from Cambridge, from Oxford, from places of das, not das of kedusha, but das, places of das, places of intelligence, from the intellectuals, just like it happened, just like it was in Germany and Austria, the same place. And those were the places of learning that the Jews were trusting that. Over there, at least they understand that this is crazy. That we don't have blood in our masses, And these are all things that are happening now again. it's all being revealed again. That the milchama is a milchama against the koach that is chamishim amos. It's the tree. It's the tree of Haman HaRasha. It's a koach of Amalek, of the snake, of the Nachash before Mashiach. That's davka from the places of das, and the only way to fight against that is ad liyada. It's ad liyada. So it's not. I think it's just a couple of crazy guys running around in kafiyas, and some Yemenites over there running around. It's coming from the highest height. It unleashed. It revealed. The ones that carry out what the West wants. Those are the schleppers, the shmatis. But that's not where it's coming from. The shirish of it is coming from the highest place, and the biggest intellectuals, and that's where it's coming from. And you can't fight against that with seichel, because so the Jews are very smart people. So they're making a million clips, and they're making all kinds of things, and everything to try to explain hasbara, right? To try to explain. And the main problem is that we don't have enough koch of hasbara. Because we don't have enough people for PR, and the Jews have to explain. So we thought you have to explain the difference between Hamas, between Haman, and between Chaya, between Haman and between our Haman and Baruch Mordechai. You have to explain that. But that's why there's no explanation that could work. So we're very smart people. So we figure, you'll explain to the island that this is Hamas are a bunch of murderers, and that they're rapists, and that they cut off heads of children. This is what they do, and they take old people. That's who they are, and then that's our Haman, and there's Baruch Mordechai. Anybody that looks at this with seichel sees that there's an Ar Haman, and there's a Baruch Mordechai. But it doesn't seem to be working. So it's ad liyada. It's not a parish of das. We're not in the world of das. And until now, everybody thought it's das. So we had that time after the war. We hear it in America and a little bit in Europe, not like in America, but in America, everything, the Jews, was Hollywood. My wife is saying over to me that there's some Jew that got up in front by the Academy Awards, some Yid, and she told me what happened. She said, maybe he didn't mean that. I don't know who this guy is. He made a movie about the Holocaust, and then he went in front of the lowest people, the biggest anti-Semites. He went and said such a thing. And then the senator from New York. I remember when he was going around like a shikyingle to high schools to speak at graduations, and he always said, I come from Alexander Hasidim. Alexander Hasidim, my name is Shomer Yisrael. I'm the Shomer Yisrael. Every time he came to that, he gave the same talk. He's the Shomer Yisrael. And this Jew gets up and he's telling in Eretz Yisrael how they should run the Medina and what the army needs to do, and how he's telling the Shomer Yisrael. He's the Shomer Yisrael. If it would be a busha if any Jewish place ever invites him again, and everybody's always bowing down and kissing. It's hard to say strong words about a Jew, but to see Jews that are, and they always begin by saying, as a Jew, and there was an article that was written in the last month's Commentary magazine on this whole sugya of these Jews that begin up by always saying, as a Jew. As a Jew. I have the inside scoop because I'm a Jew. So therefore I know how bad the Jews are. Because I'm a Jew. You're talking bad. But as far as the rest of the Chaburah is concerned, we're fine. But this is what's going on. It's complete loss of das. And everybody's saying, how could this be? How could this be? I have one of my kids, she walks around the whole day saying, I can't believe. I say, stop watching all this stuff. And she watches it again, something. She said, how could it be? It's crazy. This is crazy. And he said, but everybody understands it. Everybody understands it. It's not true. It's not true. So no women were abused in Gaza. It didn't happen. Why? Because they didn't interview any of the women that were, or they didn't see it happen, or they don't have, I don't know, whatever they're saying, all these svaras. And the svaras are coming from the media and from the universities and so on. So you see that in the world of Tumah, there's such a thing as yichida, there's such a thing as as the Shar HaNun of Tumah, it's not Seichel. How do you fight against that? So the war that's taking place, this is the connection between the two, the war in Ruchnius and the war in Gashmius. Because the war in Gashmius is a war where Jews are being brought to a place of Mesirus Nefesh, which is bringing Am Yisrael, and there are Jews that never thought ever about that they were Jewish. And there's all these things that are being written now by these liberal Jews who always believed, these liberal Jews that always believed that the left are their friends, and that they've always been supporting them, all these causes of the left. And then October 7th, before the bodies were even buried, the ones that would have a zeicha for kavur, before they were even buried. So all the people that the Jews, the liberal Jews thought are going to be are their biggest friends turned out to be their biggest enemies. So Adler had been Arham Baruch Mordechai. The whole thing is Purim. But Arham Baruch Mordechai. And the two people that are now going to be running for president again. It's all Purim. No, the whole thing is, it's so not das. It's not seichel. How could it even be that there's a president of the most powerful country on earth? That's an ish bli das. Bli das. Undas. Without any das. You look at him and you listen to what he's saying and you say, did I miss something here? That's the president of the United States. It's without das. And it's a koyach of the nachash of something that's never been in the world before, such a thing. So the only way to fight against that koyach of the Shar HaNun is with the Mesirus Nefesh. And here it's very scary because the Yishmaelim have this bechina in Tumah of Mesirus Nefesh in a crazy way. And this began already years ago, the suicide promise. It began crazy. They have a crazy Indian like that of itabdut, of suicide, but from a place of Tumah, an Indian of Mesirus Nefesh, a place of Tumah. Adavar hayachid she'amid b'ofen hashal mul oisei klihu hagili b'mamaki hanefesh sheba me'or hayichida shebenefesh. The only way in Ruchnius to fight against this Tumah is to come into that place, to enter into that place as the or of yichida shebenefesh. Shemakiris amitas or ein sof, the part of a Jew that recognizes the infinite light of God. It's not a matter of seichel. Because there's seichel, there are a million arguments. One of the Chaburah was telling me yesterday that I remember who was last. Told me that there was somebody was there by October 7th, and they were asking so you saw these things, you went through these things. So how did it affect your religion? You became a Baal Tshuva? So he said, I didn't become yet. He said, that's what I was told, Baal Tshuva. That's where I am right now. You hear this? I believe in the koach of davening. This guy was a keneged mamish, one of these Israelis, against everything in Yiddishkeit. And ani mamin b'koach tefillah. Koach tefillah is something which is not das. Holding in davening is something which is from a higher place. Shemakias amitas or ein sof. Hashem is bringing Am Yisrael to this place of yichida shebenefesh. It's going on all over the place. Zeh, page Shin Pei Gimel. Zeh hakoach hayachid she'omer b'zelu mazeh. That's the only koach of Zelu Mazeh, to fight against the Yishmaelim and to fight against the West. By the Yishmaelim, it's an Indian of Mesirus Nefesh for what they believe in, and for all that's irrational, and by the West, it's more of a sophisticated manifestation of this koach of the nachash of the snake. It's irrational also, but it's just, most of it they don't like to get their hands with blood. They like to send the Arabs to do that. But it's all the West and the East coming together, which is what all Chazal spoke about thousands of years ago. It's going to be at the end of time. As long as a person has not is not working on, is not in the avoda of connecting to the deeper part of his ruchnius, of or ein sof, of yichidish benefesh. Hayu shenimsa b'sakana nara li'imoshech achar hadara. They're in tremendous danger of being drawn into this vacuum of the Sharanun. He's speaking about the technology. Kamuvan gidrei hasakana hein l'kol echad lefi madrigosa. Obviously, the danger for each person in that world depends upon the madrig of the person. Ramat hasikun shebesaychudim. So whatever that level that he's in, or on. But if we're talking about in a pnimistic, sustained and real, deep way, to be able to overcome this addiction, this attraction of the kli, of this koch, of the sharanun, it's only hugilui mamakei haneshama shabadam. It's what all the Svarim talk about, gilui mamake haneshama shabadam. That's the weapon against the sharanun. Shesham nigla la'adam or ein sof baruch hu. In that place, there's a gilui of the or ein sof baruch hu, or shalom shalois baruch shemo. The light, the or shalom shalois baruch shemo, the light of the full light of a Kodesh baruch or shalom. And the whole Inyan Hamalek is Kiyad al Keiska, is Ein Hashem Shalom. That the name of Hashem is broken up. Kiyad al Keiska, Melchama Hashem Ba'amalek B'dor Dor. Everything that's happening. The whole Inyan of Hamalek is in Gashmias, what's happening in Eretz Yisrael, and the anti-Semitism around the world, and in Ruchnias, with this koch of Me'ain, the Ein Sof, in technology. This was left up to us. The last generation to contend with, and the only way to fight, the only way to rise above this, is with the or ein sof baruch hu, or shalom shalias baruch shema. Shu hakorach hayochid shegover al korach hakli ba'ofen hashalom, which is the only korach that can be misgaber ba'ofen hashalom. Therefore, you see that even in the world of, in the secular world, where there was a gilui, it began some time ago, but the way that it's being used in modern times are the 12 steps. I'm sure that many of you have heard it, familiar with it. Those who are therapists for sure, but even others know about the 12 steps. So, in that, which I spent time studying, because I have many of my students over the years that were helped by the 12 steps. They're doing they do very wonderful work. And there are people who are now working on that it should be with the Svarim HaKadoshim. But the ikar of the whole malacha of 12 steps is belief in what? A higher power. It's the same thing. Because at the end of the day, what the professionals that are basic in that, what they're saying is that if there isn't a higher power, the power that is human-made power is not able to fight against a koach that's ein koach of ein sof. Therefore, for a person who's addicted, whatever that addiction is, unless he's able to connect to a higher power, he can't do it. And therefore, the whole 12 steps is revolving around the higher power, which they're careful not to use the word, God, because they want it to be for people, for everybody, people who don't believe in God. But a higher power. No, what that means for a person who doesn't believe in it, but a higher power. Because there is an understanding that this koch of addiction, whatever that addiction may be, is something which is higher than the seichel. Because seichel, the person knows, like we spoke about last week, seichel, the person knows with das, he knows that this stuff is killing him. He knows that his life is falling apart. And he's a smart person. I tell him, what's the matter? You're not about seichel. Guys, you're the smartest guy in our class. You graduated with the highest honors in our college. And your life is being destroyed by gambling, by drinking, by whatever it is. Your life is being destroyed. You don't understand this is bad? He understands 1,000% that it's bad. So if you understand, then don't do it. No. Enli koach. I don't have koach. So they understand that unless the person connects to a higher koach, he can't get himself out. And that means bittul. It means that everything the Baal Shem Tov was talking about is bittul. That's all the Baal Shem was talking about is the need bittul. A person's afraid. He's afraid by COVID. The guy is terrified. And people were being buried by that fear. Buried by that fear. You saw what we saw. We watched that time we lived through. And it all was happening at the same time. The war, the COVID, the war. So there's one tekufa, just because there was a little bit in between COVID, a little bit of a break in the war. It's all the same. It's the same tekufa. We're in this tekufa of the Sharanun. And you see the pachet that people felt by COVID, the pachet, the fear of death, the fear. How do you overcome fear? How do you overcome fear? So good. How do you overcome fear? The only way to overcome fear is not. You could take some pills; it'll help you calm down a little bit. You make a l'chaim, so you feel a little bit better for a half hour. To overcome the milchama with fear is bittul. So ein shum davar acher. It's going to a higher power. Ani biyadcha. So there's one of my einiklach was very, very nervous because she felt something like this, and the doctor told her it's good, and she's nothing, but she's very, very nervous. I said, tell her like that to be very nervous. So I said, so what happens to you? So if you die, we'll miss you. I love you. And her mother told her the same thing because she was raised by me. So, if you die, and you go back to Hashem's Baruch. And so he saw, what's the pacha? What do you think, it's bad over there? It's hard at first because we're going to miss you. We'll miss you. Make a nice hospital, everything will be covered. They can go. What's the big deal? So what if not? If that's the Ratzon Hashem, okay, you go. If that's the Ratzon Hashem, you go. So we all talk that language, of course, whatever Hashem wants. But after that sentence, after those words, but at the same time, I knew I had a conversation with people during COVID who were shivering and were not able to do anything. They were paralyzed by. So I had a talk with them about Hashem and about Amunah B'tachon. He said, of course. I know, I looked, of course. But there's always that afterwards. So what does it mean? That's the end of the conversation. Ein od milvado. That's it. Ein od milvado. Ein od milvado. Ein davar acher. No such thing. And to be able to surrender yourself is the hardest thing in the world. It's the hardest thing in the world. You got to jump out the window because there's a fire in the room, and you see somebody say, "No, I got you." It's very hard to have emunah in Hashem, to know that He has you, and that wherever you fall into His arms, and that includes death. Everybody should be healthy and well till 120, but that includes death. As much. As neifot anofel, mat anofel. Where are you falling? Who's holding you? So we always finish with, so why are you so afraid? Same thing when it comes with money, losing this, losing that. Why are you so afraid of this? Why are you so afraid of that? Why are you making in your head, you're living constantly making plans for your future? Kilo, it's in your hands. But we do that all the time. We make 1,000,000 plans. Rabbi Aish, he said, it's a nice thing in davening. But really, you make 1,000 things in your head. I'm going to do like this, I'm going to do like that, and if I do like this, I'm going to have like that, and if I have like that, I'm going to be like this, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to have this, I'm going to have 1,000,000 plans. In the end, it doesn't ever come out like that. And because Hashem does whatever He wants to do, and He knows what's best, and tell the person, why are you thinking you're making plans for the next 20 years? You don't know for the next 20 minutes. And the person says, of course, I believe and I know, but you still have to be, you have to be, and then it goes on to the whole speech about how you have to be realistic. And the Torah is not against being realistic and being rational. There's not a chas v'shol. The Baruch wants us to run our lives in a way that's v'seichel. But you can tell when there's a time of pachad. You can tell when there's a time. You can tell how does a person look. How look at yourself. How were you during COVID? How are you now that things are so crazy in the world? The Nazis are after me. The Nazis are after me. Of course, there's a rational mahal to think about what's going on. But whether you're living in a place of pachad, or you believe that you really believe you're in Hashem's Baruch, Honest. Do you believe that or you don't believe it? This is the test before Mashiach comes. And we have to pass this test. This is the test before Mashiach comes. This is entering into a place of Ein Sof, of not being afraid. Not being afraid. It's nice to have a theme of a dinner, but Lamaisa, Al-Tira, not to be afraid of anything. You know that that's what the Baal Shem Tov's father told him before he died. Baal Shem Tov was a kid, he was an orphan. And his father told him, Lo l'fachei klal, me'af echad. Don't be afraid of anybody, only the Baal Shem. Nothing. Not to be afraid of anything. But that doesn't only mean not to be afraid of a sickness, or not to be afraid. It means with money things. It means not to be afraid. Not to be afraid of what's going to happen. What's going to be with even in Ruchnius with my kid. What's going to be with my kid. You do the best you can. And you're not afraid. That's what it means. Lo l'fachei klal. That's what Rabbi Nachman was talking about. Shli yispachei klal. That's what he really said. The song which made it sound better maybe with the music later. The Torah says, nothing can make you afraid. Nothing in the world can make you afraid. Lo yitzpached. There's nothing in the world that can make you afraid because you're a Yid. And the Baruch Shalom fears that. It's not just something to sing the songs and to put on your bumper. But to live in such a way of al-tir, of without any fear. Without any fear. And that is something which is not seichel. Because seichel, there are many things to be afraid of. Seichel, there are all kinds of things to be afraid of. You have these people, the second that they're not feeling well, they start looking it up on the computer. They go onto the kalim shainim. They go onto the kalim, and they start to and even if you just didn't feel well, it has on there all kinds of, and it describes your symptoms. And you say, I have that, and the computer says back, that's you, right? And somebody was telling me they were looking at some kind of thing where it had funny matzevas, all kinds of funny matzevas, So there's some kind of website for funny matzevas. So there was a matzeva that said on it. It says on the matzeva, I told you it wasn't the cold. That's the matzeva. I told you, because probably this guy his whole life was making his wife crazy that I'm going to die. And finally, when he was 84 and he had a cold, so he was talking very sick or something, and she said, "Stop it already! Stop it! You're making me crazy." And he said, "I told you it wasn't a cold. It's not the cold that's killing you. It's not the cancer that's killing you. It's the pachad. It's the year that's killing us." And therefore, you see a person that Law Lane was very sick, but he lives in a place of fearlessness. And you have a soldier, like I was talking about yesterday. He's in a crazy place surrounded by chayas, and he's saying the guy never learned to pass a chumash Rashi. In the Israeli schools, they learned a little chumash, maybe not a Rashi, but he's saying Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Shem Echad. And you're crying in your basement here in New York, someplace about this, about that, what's going to be. And this guy is standing over there. It's Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Shem Echad. Am Yisrael Mefached. I think there's a song like that. Lo Mefached. But that can only come from coming into contact with the Or Ein Sof. And how is it possible these soldiers, these chaver, they're not even from? Because in that place, you're forced into that corner that's called Ein Sof. Because if not, you're going to lose your mind. Because Seichel can't work over there. So it takes you to a place that's called Ad L'Yada. And when you come to that place, it's Purim. And Purim is already... Purim is invincible. Purim is Mechias Hamali. That's Mechias Hamali. That's what he's saying. It's the only way to win. Shuhu al-koach ha-yochid shegover al-koach ha-kli b'ofen ha-shalom. Shara koach is bichotem l'sgaber chalakit. The other things that they use, all the psychology and all the different techniques and all the filters, they can help a little bit. They can help. Al-chelik mesuyim mechelkei ha-kli hazeh. A little bit. They can help a little bit. Aval ha-koach ha-yochid shemizgaber b'ofen ha-shorashi v'ha-shalom l'chol mitzius ha-kli zeh or ein sof. So you see what's happening? We're now holding by a place where finally, after so many years of trying with seichel and with diplomacy and handling with this little milcham, that little milcham, but finally we've come to a place where the Baruch Shalom is saying to us, finish off the snake, kill the snake, right? In Gaza, finish off the snake. They need to be finished off on the West Bank. They need to be finished off also in Lebanon, in the north. But the Baruch Shalom is saying is finish the snake, destroy the snake. Amalek is mechias Amalek. So the whole world is going crazy for a ceasefire. What does it make you so? What do you have with it? You're telling me that here in America, a person of seichel doesn't understand that Hamas is bad for the world, not for Jews. They don't. Okay, Jews get killed, mainly, but it's bad for you. They're coming after you. The whole world doesn't understand that the Yishmaeli, that this sickness of the end of time is destroying the whole world. If it was seichel, everybody would get together, America and Germany and France, and they would tell anybody in Iran, any of you that are still healthy, normal people, go to some of your neighbors and blow the whole place up, the whole Iran. Blow up all these places, just destroy them, finish it. It's a sickness in the world. It's Amalek. It's a mechias that there should be mechias Amalek, not people that are innocent. And how do you do that? And since when did you have to? So now the world came up with such a mahalach in fighting in Muhammad. There was never in the whole history of the world. Only now that the world has a new hamtza'ah that when you fight a war, it's not nice to hurt people. When was there ever in the history when America was in Afghanistan just a couple of years ago? They were blowing up they were blowing them to pieces all over the place. They didn't go knocking on doors and sending text messages. It's time to get out. Only now there's a new hamtza'ah before Mashiach comes that it's not nice to hurt people in the Muhammad. It's not nice. You don't do that. Only Jews. But why? Because there's a bechina now of Amalek, and therefore all these things that are not safe. And everybody's saying, how could it be that you're supposed to fight a war without people getting hurt? How are you supposed to fight a war like that? Since when was a war ever fought like that? You're supposed to. You try, and the Torah certainly is not in favor of innocent people being hurt. But as we spoke about when we were learning the areas of Milchama Rav Kook, B'Shas Milchama, people are swept along the Milchama. It's not our fault, it's the fault of the Rishayim. Sorry. Kach is it. It was like that until now. But everything that's happening, all these things are converging right now, and it's all without seichel. None of it is seichel. None of it is seichel. So the president says, on the one hand he says, Hamas are bad guys, and he says to the Jews, you should try to get rid of Hamas. But then the same guy is giving billions of dollars to Iran. No? And Iran is the ones who are paying for Hamas. Is that seichel? So you're paying this guy, you're paying that guy, I'll give money to Israel for Iron Dome, I'll give money to see if you can finish off Hamas, but don't hurt anybody. But just finish off Hamas, and then we're giving billions of dollars to Iran. And all the Iranians are sitting there by the nuclear reactors, they're laughing, the idiots in America. And the whole world is meshugah. And none of it is seichel. It's not seichel. So he says, therefore, this is the milchama that we're in. That's on the physical front, and this is in the ruchnistic front. It's the same thing. It's not seichel. So the Ramchal and Mesilas Yesharim is saying that there's a war that's being fought in front of you and behind you. So we're talking about, for the last few months, about Shmir Seinai. So Shmir Seinai meant, like we were learning at the beginning of the Maimer, that, what you see in front of you, to be careful, what you see in front of you, and even the chush that you have a little bit, that it's on the sides, and even a little bit behind you, which was all there was until now, but that's finished. We're not talking about any more panim v'achar, not just in front of you and behind you. Where it's climbing into your head, which you were explaining. We're talking a little bit about that. You put on a thing in the virtual reality, and all this stuff. It's harbe yosa amuka, harbe yosa gava. It's much, much higher than that. The machines are going to be brought to a place to have bigger seichel, where they're going to be able to. They'll have the koach to be able to figure out a way to destroy human beings. Also, the ones who created them, like in a science fiction movie, like Frankenstein, let loose. And you created Frankenstein, and then you have a taina against Frankenstein. You created him, but that's what's going on. And it sounds now like it's from a movie. But all the things that sound like a movie last year is not a movie anymore. It's Metzias. And this war is very clear to anybody who opens up the eyes of his seichel, and his eyes are clean. His eyes are clean. He doesn't say afterwards, yeah, but his eyes are clean. The last final battle before Mashiach comes is this. Are you going to follow, be drawn after, invest your life into being connected to Or Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem, which is higher than Seichel? And if your decision is not to do that, or your excuses and reasons why not, then then you're going to be sucked in. Even though each person thinks it's not going to happen to me, just like every person who took his first drink or smoked his first thing, I'm not going to become addicted to anything, not to drinking, not to drugs. I'm not going. One person looked at the first filthy thing, looked at Chas V'Shalom on a movie or a computer. It's not going to. I'm just a little bit of HR. It's not going to take my life over. There's nobody that ever looked at those things and said, I want this to destroy my life. There's no one ever took a drink or smoked something or a drug or looked at something and said, I'm hoping this, or gambled. I'm so excited about the possibility of me becoming addicted and ruining my marriage and my children, my life, and spending every penny on. Nobody ever went to gamble like that. No gambler ever started off saying, I hope this ruins my life. I can't wait to be addicted to this. Every single one thinks, just making it's just a l'chaim. And the snake is laughing, is l'chaim, is l'amavis. And he thinks it's a l'chaim. And I'm not saying, I'm going to walk out, I think that he said that you can't make a l'chaim. I'm not talking about the way that a healthy, normal person makes a l'chaim. You understand? I am saying you shouldn't gamble at all, that's for sure, and all the other stuff. But when it comes to schnapps, a person makes a l'chaim. But there's a difference between a person who makes a l'chaim, and that becomes his life. And the line between one and the other is the same thing when it comes to the computer. I'm just going to look for a minute at something. I just want to see it for a minute. It looks interesting. This looks interesting. I'll look at it for a minute. And how do you stop that? How do you not go into that world? Which you know is a dark world. We all know it's a dark world. How do you not go into it? So again, does that mean, so he's saying that I'm not allowed to use a computer. My whole business depends on a computer? No. But I have to fight against the himashchut, being pulled into the darkness and the ugliness and the snake. Which kivyochel is a metzias in the world now of Ein Sof. Zelum hazeh asalakim. Kan munach oimek hamochama shel adam b'dor didan. This is the oimek hamochama b'dor didan. Now the way to fight is and how to connect to Ein Sof. We're going to begin Rosh Hashanah next week, but really all of Bilvavi's Svarim, beginning from volume 1. Next week is Purim. Yeah, Hashanah. So next week will actually be Lamaisa. So in 2 weeks, Hashem will continue. But all the Svarim of Bilvavi, Chelik Aleph, especially Chelik Beis, listen to Kud, it's all a parish of what we're learning. All the Svarim we're learning. To be continued.
Yeah. Thursday, Friday. Thursday and Friday we're both sitting on Thursday.